In this chapter, we'll be going to talk about statistics and how the statistical diagrams will be helping us to present the data. So first of all, we have a very quick revision on how to do a survey. So for example, like now we are going to do a survey to know the weights of students who are joining 100 and 1,500 meter race. And so what shall you do first? Of course, you need to make a table and collect the data. For example, the table I draw for you on the right hand side will be 31 to 35 kg in a group. Okay, the difference is 4 kg. So that's why next we have 36 to 40 kg. Next we have 41 to 45 kg, etc. Now there are totally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 groups over there until 60 kg. So you may ask why there's a gap between the numbers. It is because normally when we are deciding the numbers in the table, for example, you are 35.7 kg. Normally, you will consider yourselves as 36 kg. So that's why you're in the second group. So of course, for example, like you are in like 40.1 kg. So by round off, then normally you will put yourself into 36 to 40 kg. If there is no gap, for example, if your table is like 31 to 35, 35 to 39, 39 to another one will be 43, it will be very confused because, for example, like, well, if you are 35 kg, so should I put your name into 31 to 35 in the first group or in the second group? So that's why when we are doing a survey and make a table, you will see that um, the numbers between the groups, they are separated, they won't be the same. After you have made the table, then you can start asking the students about their weights and put the data into the table. For example, 36 kg first student, okay, 44, 47, etc. Then next you put some strokes in the tally. Now suppose my data will be as follow, maybe okay, like this. Okay, so there are 5, 2, 1, 6, 7, and maybe 5 at last. So finally, you get the total of number of students you're considering. It will be 5, 5, and 10, 7, 2, 1, another 10. So totally 26 students participating in the 1,500 meter race. So this is a very quick survey and how we collect the data in a table. And afterward, when we want to present the result, of course, we don't show the table to the readers. So that's why we need some ways, which is called statistical diagram, which help us to deliver the message about the results in the table. And then one of them you have learned in Form 1 will be called histogram. And then now let's see how it will be like. But before we start, we need to know some technical terms, some keywords in histogram. And then first of all, to each of the group you are considering, they will be called, this is called class interval. Okay, class interval. And then so this is the first class interval, 31 to 35. You have the second interval, class interval, 36 to 40, third one, fourth, fifth, and the sixth one. Each of them they are called class interval. But the secondly is when we want to draw a diagram, histogram, the bars, when you want to draw some rectangles to present the data, they should be stick together because now you're talking about continuous data. So as a result, we need to find out some ways so that to fill up the gap between 35 and 36. So this is the problem, or this is the thing we need to look at. And then so in the notes here, you will see that this is the way how we are going to do it. Now let's see. Okay, you have 31 to 35 kg in the first class interval, 36 to 40 kg in the second class interval. In order to fill the gap, and each of the groups should be, so what should we say? Increase should be larger in order to fill the gap. That means now it will be extend to 35.5 and 35.5 for the second group. So as a result, 31 will be extend to the other end, which is 30.5. So that's why the first group becomes 30 to 35.5, while the second group will becomes 40 will be extend to the other end to the right, which is 40.5 kg. So this is the way how we can extend, lengthen the class interval into what we call class boundaries, in which there is no gap between each group. This is called class boundary. Okay, so originally you will see it's called class interval. There are two different names. Okay, so now for each group, we have so-called, or I so-called is a representative of the group, which is the middle number. The name is called class mark. So how we can do class mark will be, is taking an average to the first number and the second number. So which means is 30.5 plus 35.5 over 2, in which the answer will give you, what is it? 30, 65, 66, so that's why it's 33 kg. Or you may use the original number, 31, 35 in the class interval, so which gives you, oh, maybe I rub away some old numbers first. Okay, please wait for a while. Okay, coming up next will be, we can use the numbers in the class interval, 31 and 35 kg, take the average, so you also get 33 kg, which is called the class mark of the class interval or class boundary. Finally, you remember that we are aiming to lengthen the class interval into class boundary so that we can plot or we can draw the histogram afterward. So the length of this class boundary, there's another name called class width, which is, now I put in yellow. It's quite easy. So you are doing subtraction of 35.5 minus 30.5, which gives you 5 kg for the class width. After that, you can start drawing the histogram by using the data like 5, okay, like 5, 2, 1, 6, etc. And then so now in the table, in the notes, shows you another figure, histogram, which shows you the weights of 30 S2 students, Form 2 students over there. And then please note that for histogram, is used to present group continuous data. And then so the main point will be there is no space between the bar. And now you have a question. Well, what is the meaning of continuous data? And then so do you still remember there's another kind of data called discrete data? If you forget about them, please go back to ask your teachers. So he or she may give you a more brief, clear explanation to you. And I'm not going to talk about it here. But now going back to histogram, so bear in mind that there are no space between bars. But in some occasions, we may have space. For example, like after you have done MC question, for example, this is question 1. And then so some of you answer A, some of you answer B, some of you answer C, some of you answer D. And then so in this kind of table, and then you see that there are spaces between the bars. And for this one, this is called bar chart, which is used to present discrete data. So now can you, or are you be smart enough to make a guess? What's the difference between discrete data and continuous data? After you have a brief review about doing a survey, getting data, what's the meaning of class interval, class boundaries, etc., let's take a look in example 1 or question 1 to see how you are going to answer the question. Indeed, they are quite easy, very factual factual answers only. And now in the question is about for how long to a group of teenagers spending the time in the internet. So I like to underline the unit, maybe the one in the table. So which reminds me about I should be bear in mind that I need to write the units in the end of my answer. And now the first group 1 to 30, next group 31 to 60. So each of them, if you remember, they are called class interval. Okay, right here. So they are called class interval. So it's like first group, second group, etc. And you will see the numbers there as a gap between them, 30 to 31, 60 to 61, 90 to 91, etc. There's a gap. So that's why before we go to the next part, we need to fill the gap afterward. Okay, to your common sense, you have to also note that in each class interval, it should be so-called equal in length. 1 to 30, the difference is 29. 31 to 60, difference is 29. 61 to 90, difference is 29, etc. So do have this sense in your mind or this concept in your mind, because later on when you do a project or maybe you do your IES, It's very important about it. Okay, so next, when we are talking about class interval, we have a term called lower and upper class limit. Okay, especially to underline the word class limit, because you're talking about the first and the last number, smallest and the lowest number. Smallest and the largest number refer to lower and upper class limits respectively. So that's why 1A, which is a very simple question. Lower class limit will be 1 minute, while upper class limit will be 30 minutes. Very simple, right? Okay, for the fourth class interval, and now you will see that it comes to another two keywords called class boundaries. And now let's see what should be done. Okay, first 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the fourth class interval. And then in order to change to class boundaries, okay, class boundaries. So 91 and 90, they should fill up the gap. So that's why we take 90.5. 120 and 121, so they should fill up the gap. So that's why it goes to 120.5. And so as a result, now we fill in the blanks for the fourth class interval. So bear in mind that this is a word interval. So we should have 91 minutes to 120 minutes. Lower class boundary, so I don't wish you write a step, but you write down the smallest number, which is 90.5, which stands for the lower class boundary. Next, upper class boundary, so I don't want you to write a step as well. Then you find the largest one in this class boundaries, which is called 120.5 minutes accordingly. Next, part C will be, you see the word called class mark is appears. So if you still remember, it's about the middle number of each group. So you have two ways to do it, part C. Firstly will be, you can use, okay, let's fill in the blanks first, 121 minutes to 150 minutes. Okay, class mark, you can use the class boundary, which is 120.5, 150.5 over 2. And the result is 135.5 minutes. Or you can use 120 plus 150, it should be 121 over 2. So you should have got the same result, 135.5 minutes. Not very difficult, right? So, but the main point will be you have to bear in mind all these keywords, including class limit, class interval, and then class boundary, and finally class mark. So there are several keywords for you to remember. Lastly, we'll take a look in this question 5, to see how we can retrieve the data from a histogram. Okay, so here comes a question about amounts of pocket money. Okay, I would like to underline $sign because it's important in the question, $sign. And then now there are totally 35 students being interviewed. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, the histogram is given to you, but now you are going to get the data, retrieve the data from the histogram. So the easiest way will be the histogram should be drawn by class boundaries. So that's why you have 20.5, 30.5 in the table in the first class boundary, which is given to you. So as a result, the next one should be 30.5 and then 40.5. Next one is 31.5 to 41.5, etc. In order to write the $sign every time in the table, because the $sign is given on top of the table already. Okay, while you're talking about class mark, it should be the middle number, 20.5, 30.5 for the first in the first group, divided by 2, which should give you 25.5, right? Similarly, in the same group, it should 30.5, 40.5 divided by 2, which gives you 35.5. Not that difficult, right? Okay, so for frequency that means the number. Now you can read in the first bar, so which gives you there are 25 students. Second bar, it reaches the value of 8, etc. Then you fill in the blanks afterward. Okay, the most difficult one will be in yellow, talking about the amount. Can you see that what's the relation between them? No? Can you see that this one is your class interval? That means at first, at the time when you're doing the survey, there should be a gap between the number like 30 and 31 between the two class intervals. So that's why when you have 20.5, 30.5, then you can kind of like narrow down into 21 to 30 at the time when you're doing the survey. And then similarly, 30.5, 40.5, you narrow down it into 31 to 40. Now can you make a guess that, oh sorry, I find I make a mistake in the next one. It should be, so this one is should be 40.5 to 50.5. So that's why the amounts originally should be 41 to 50. And then so class mark, you should be able to do it. And the frequency this time should be, it reaches the value of 9, and you just go ahead on that.